The Bible in a year, day 78, Joshua 16 through 18. The lot that fell to the Josephites extended from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters of Jericho east of the wilderness. Then the boundary went up from Jericho to the heights at Bethel, leaving Bethel for Luz. It crossed the bridge to the border of the Archites at Ataroth and descended westward to the border of the Japhletites to that of the lower Beth Horon and to Gezer, and from there to the sea, within the heritage of Manasseh and Ephraim, son of Joseph, the dividing line for the heritage of the Ephraimites by their clans ran from east to Ataroth Adar to upper Beth Horon, and thence to the sea. From Mikmethath on the north, their boundary curved eastward around Taanath Shiloh, and continued east to Janoah. From there it descended to Ataroth and Nara, and reaching Jericho, it ended at the Jordan. From Tapua, the boundary ran westward to the Wadi Canaan and ended at the sea. This was the heritage of the Ephraimites by their clans, including the villages that belonged to each city set aside for the Ephraimites, within the heritage of the Manassites, but they did not dispossess the Canaanites living in Gezer. They live within Ephraim to the present day, though they have been put to forced labor. Now, as for the lot that fell to the tribe of Manasseh, as the firstborn of Joseph, since Manasseh's eldest son, Machir, the father of Gilead, was a warrior who had already obtained Gilead and Bashan. The allotment was now made to the rest of the Manassites by their clans, the descendants of Abiezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemida. These are the other male children of Manasseh, son of Joseph, by their clans. Furthermore, Zelophehad, son of Hepher, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. These presented themselves to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua, son of Nun, and to the leaders, saying, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us a heritage among our relatives." So in accordance with the command of the Lord, a heritage was given them among their father's relatives. Thus 10 shares fell to Manasseh apart from the land of Gilead and Bashan beyond the Jordan. Since these female descendants of Manasseh received a portion among his sons, the land of Gilead fell to the rest of the Manassites. Manasseh bordered on Asher from Mikmethath near Shechem. Another boundary ran southward to include the inhabitants of En Tapua, because the district of Tapua belonged to Manasseh, although Tapua itself was an Ephraimite city at the border of Manasseh. This same boundary continued down to the Wadi Canaan. The cities that belonged to Ephraim from among the cities in Manasseh were those to the south of the Wadi. Thus the territory of Manasseh ran north of the Wadi and ended at the sea. The land on the south belonged to Ephraim, and that on the north to Manasseh, with the sea as their common boundary. They reached Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. Moreover, in Issachar and in Asher, Manasseh was awarded Beth-shean and its towns, Ibleam and its towns, the inhabitants of Dor and its towns, the inhabitants of Endor and its towns, the inhabitants of Tanakh and its towns, the inhabitants of Megiddo and its towns. The third is Naphat Dor. Since the Manassites were not able to dispossess these cities, the Canaanites continued to inhabit this region. When the Israelites grew stronger, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not dispossess them. The descendants of Joseph said to Joshua, "Why have you given us only one lot and one share as our heritage? Our people are too many because of the extent to which the Lord has blessed us." Joshua answered them, "If you are too many, go up to the forest and clear out a place for yourselves. There is in the land of the Perizzites and Rephaim, since the mountainous regions of Ephraim are so narrow." For the Josephites said, "Our mountain regions are not enough for us." On the other hand, the Canaanites living in the valley region all have iron chariots, in particular those in Beth Shean and its towns, and those in the valley of Jezreel. Joshua therefore said to Ephraim and Manasseh, the house of Joseph, "You are a numerous people and very strong. You shall not have merely one share, for the mountain regions which is now forest shall be yours when you clear it. Its adjacent land shall also be yours if, despite their strength and iron chariots, you dispossess the Canaanites." The whole community of Israelites assembled at Shiloh, where they set up the tent of meeting, and the land was subdued before them. These remained 7 tribes among the Israelites that had not yet received their heritage. Joshua therefore said to the Israelites, "How much longer will you put off taking steps to dispossess the land which the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you? Choose 3 representatives from each of your tribes. I will send them to go throughout the land and describe it for purposes of acquiring their heritage, and they return to me. You shall divide it into 7 parts. Judah is to retain its territory in the south, and the house of Joseph its territory in the north. You shall bring it to me here, the description of the land in 7 sectors. I will then cast lots for you here before the Lord our God, for the Levites have no share among you, because the priesthood of the Lord is their heritage, while Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have already received the heritage east of the Jordan, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them." When those who were to describe the land were ready for their journeys, Joshua commanded them, "Go throughout the land and describe it. Return to me, and I will cast lots for you here before the Lord in Shiloh." So they went through the land, described its cities in the writing in 7 sections, and returned to Joshua in the camp at Shiloh. Joshua then cast lots for them before the Lord at Shiloh, and divided up the land for the Israelites into their separate shares. 1 lot fell to the tribe of Benjamites by their clans. Their territory allotted them lay between the descendants of Judah and those of Joseph. Their northern boundary began at the Jordan and went over the northern flank of Jericho, up westward to the mountains until it reached the wilderness of Beth Aven. For there it crossed over to the southern flank of Luz, that is Bethel. Then it ran down to Ataroth Adar on the mountain top south of Lower Beth Horon. For the westward border, the boundary line swung south from the mountain top opposite of Beth Horon until it reached Kirjath Baal, that is Kirjath Jearim, the city that belonged to the Judahites. This was the western boundary. The southern boundary began at the limits of Kirjath Jearim and projected to the spring at Nephtoah. It went down to the edge of the mountain on the north of the valley of Rephaim, where it faces the valley of Ben Hinnom, and continuing down to the valley of Hinnom along the southward flank of the Jebusites, reached En Rogel, inclining to the north. It extended to En Shemesh and thence to Geliath, opposite of the pass of Adumim. Then it dropped to the Eben Bohan ben Reuben across the northern flank of the Arabah, overlooked down into the Arabah, for there the boundary continued across the northern flank of Beth Hogla and extended northward to the tongue of the Salt Sea toward the southern end of the Jordan. This was the southern boundary. The Jordan bounded it on the east. This was now the heritage of the Benjamites. By their clans was bounded on all sides. Now the cities belonging to the tribe of the Benjamites by their clans were Jericho, Beth Hogla, Emek Keziz, Beth Arabah, Zimarim, Bethel, Avim, Para, Ophrah, Chephar, Ammoni, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities and their villages. Also Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpeh, Chephirah, Moza, Rechem, Irpeel, Taralah, Zelah, Halef, the Jebusite city that is Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath, 14 cities and their villages. This was the heritage of the clans of Benjamites. This is the word of the Lord.